Hi guys, hope you're having a great day. You know, as many of us are really aware, this is really a critical time for all Australians, and the decisions that we're making over the course of the next week can and will affect the trajectory of the coronavirus spread over the coming months. So with all the many sacrifices that we have to make and are making, one thing I'm sure we'd all agree that we're actually not willing to budge on, and that would be the education of our children. I'm honoured, really honoured today to welcome our very special guest, Andrew Oberthur, a primary school principal with over 30 years experience teaching and leading primary schools in Brisbane. In 2018, Andrew published his very first book, Are You Ready for Primary School, this year, which is about building a culture of trust, collaboration and inquiry between parents and teachers. I'm really honoured to have you be a partner of Kiddipedia and also joining us today. How are you, Andrew?
I'm fantastic, Rach. It's lovely to be here.
And a lot of parents would have a whole range of conflicting thoughts and emotions at the moment. And as a school principal, what initial advice do you have for parents with primary school age children who may be just generally just confused and concerned at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. Rachel, I think we just need to reassure parents that education will continue for their children, and that parents and teachers will work hand in hand to make sure that the educational journey is ongoing, whether it be at school or whether or not schools eventually close, and they may have to be doing some work at home with an alternative educational model. But parents and teachers can work together to make sure the kids continue to get an education.
Yes. We've got lots of things to talk about on the subject, and because things are changing so quickly with this, with the virus updates, we want to keep this interview as relevant for as long as possible. So we won't go into some of the recent announcements that Scott Morrison made yesterday. So we'll keep it as general as possible. Now, starting with the article that we had published recently of yours. Now, the title is COVID-19: Keeping Children Safe, Well and Calm. For a parent who hasn't read the article, could you give us a little bit of an overview of what it's about and just what inspired you to write it?
Sure, Rachel. Look, I think parents look for schools for affirmations and for reassurance, as do children. So the genesis of that came about in saying to parents, they're responsible with the teachers to keep their children safe, firstly. So let's practice some good hygiene habits so that we can keep our kids safe and healthy. Let's reassure the kids that this is not the end of the world. It's very serious, granted, but we will get through this. So let's reassure children, keep them calm and keep them safe with good hygiene habits, keep them healthy. And in a few months' time, hopefully, we will have learnt a few lessons, and the children come out the other end smiling and happy.
Yes. Well, we've got lots of questions to get through, so let's get stuck with the first one. So what are some strategies and activities for parents to help manage the kids at home?
Yeah, look, Rachel, I think a couple of things parents can do. Firstly, if they're choosing to self-select and self-isolate and have their children at home, the teachers, by and large, should be able to send some work home. This will be probably a stopgap measure until we move to a complete alternate educational model. So if we go to an alternate mode of delivery, then it will be everyone's at home and the teacher will be presenting work online. Initially, if parents are self-selecting their children to stay at home, then the teachers will be able to send home worksheets, simple activities, web links, things like that, in which case the parents can support the child's educational journey. It will require the parents to do some supervision and engage with the child's learning. Now, I suspect not all parents will feel comfortable or competent and worried about that, but I think it's important if parents remember they are the first educators of their children. So they were educating their children from birth to 5 years of age. So this is just going to be an extension, particularly in the early years of primary school. So parents need to be reassured that yes, they can do it, and yes, they'll enjoy the educational process with their children. It won't necessarily be easy, but it's very possible.
Yeah. So what advice do you have for parents who are already homeschooling remotely or digitally educating their kids via distance school learning, and may feel, as you mentioned before, a little unqualified to support their child's education from home? What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, look, and I think parents need to be reassured that they can do it. I think if they can set routines and timetables, if they can keep an communication with the school, be it distance ed or be it a school in metropolitan Australia, they still have the opportunity to keep in contact with the school. Ideally, the parents will still be setting the curriculum and setting the activities. So those lines of communication between home and school can still be fostered. And if they can keep doing that, then they can be assured that the curriculum is being followed and that they play a part in supervision, maybe guidance to some extent when necessary, so that the child's journey can continue.
Yep. So how will parents actually know what their child should be learning?
Sure. And look, a lot of teachers will be able to give parents a few weeks or days of plans. I wouldn't necessarily recommend they could jump on the ACARA website. I think that's for educators. Parents could do that if they wish to jump on the ACARA website. They're welcome to. But keeping in mind, the teachers will have plans for a few days, a few weeks, and they should be able to say, look, here's what we need to achieve by X number of days' time, because that feedback will be able to track and monitor how the students are going. So ideally, teachers will provide that direction. Parents just need to follow it.
And from your perspective, what are the advantages of home learning for young children, which is going to be inevitable, as we were just saying, at some point more and more over the coming months?
Yeah, and Rachel, I think there are a couple of advantages. One is children can work at their own pace. They're not being bound by the majority of the kids in their class, which is good. So mum and dad can say, right, we can work at our own pace depending on how a child's achieving and displaying their progress. Another big advantage is mum and dad will be almost forced in a good way to engage with their child's learning journey, as opposed to saying that's a school teacher issue. Mum and dad will be playing a critical role in supervision, helping, guiding, which is fantastic. So I think they're the two advantages of homeschooling, if by default we have to do it.
Yes. And children are really used to having structure in their school day and their day being very, very structured from time frames. So do you have any tips how parents can actually still provide that level of structure to help children sort of feel like they still are in some form of normality?
Yeah, Rachel, really good question. And I think something that parents can do is they can have a visual timetable where they could draw it up, put it on the fridge, put it on a pin board and say, kids, here's our timetable for today. With young children, there might be a little bit of negotiation. With older children, there might be more negotiation. But ultimately, still remind the children we're still in a learning time frame. So between the hours of 9 and 3 kids, we're still going to be doing a fair bit of work. Let's structure it, which is just good teaching practice. Many teachers do this in classrooms. Here's the timetable, kids. Mum and dad can do exactly the same thing. Have it up on the board. And as it's done, tick them off. Yep, we've done some maths, we've done some English, we've done some science. Fantastic. We've done some reading. Yep. So the children can see where they're heading. Kids love to know the routines. And if they can tick them off and go, yep, we've done that, we've done that, we've done that. They're achieving things. Mum and dad have a sense of achievement. They're working hand in hand.
And do you think with that, I mean, should parents really set up a learning space at home, like specific for that? So, I mean, understanding that type of thing that you were just mentioning, you could sit on the fridge, but should they be having a designated learning space that then once the children are not in their, school time, that they would move out of to be able to play? And how would you recommend one of your tips around that?
I think you've described it perfectly. If the children have a working space for the time that they would be doing some activities, school-based activities, they know they can go to their desk or the table and say, yep, I'm at my learning space for the time being. Then when they need to have a break, they can move away into the rest of the house, have some fun time, which is non-school related work, and then return to their school-related work in a designated space. I think it's a perfect scenario, if at all possible. May not be, but if at all possible, I would have a little designated space for the kids.
Yep. And I mean, now generally that in the state of Victoria, we have it sort of statewide that all children are going to be home. But for the parents who are actually choosing distant learning, how will children be learning? How will that be maintained with the schools that have closed?
Yeah, look, my understanding, Rachel, is that schools who are asked to provide alternate methods of delivery, the teachers will still be sending work home on a regular basis, be it via email, be it via blogs, be it via video links, any of those ways they can communicate with the kids, and conversely, get feedback and provide feedback. So once the children submit work, the teacher should be able to provide feedback. So there are many platforms. For example, Microsoft 365 has Teams, which a lot of schools will be using. There are many platforms by which parents and teachers can still engage, because teachers, as I understand it, will still be expected to provide work for these children. So the curriculum will continue, just in a completely different mode of delivery. We will learn a lot of lessons out of this, as sad as it is, but it's also an opportunity for different modes of delivery, which is quite exciting.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with technology now. Everyone can sort of access information here, there, and everywhere. But with the links that are already live, are there any online links currently that you can guide us that will provide parents with support information for home learning at all?
Yeah, Rachel, a couple of things regarding online links. Firstly, they should be ultimately tied to the curriculum. Mm-hmm. There are numerous commercial products out there. Let me rattle off a couple for you. So there's Reading Eggs, there's Study Ladder, there's the Khan Academy, there's Mathletics. Now, these are all commercial products whereby parents can jump online and get numerous activities. Ultimately, if it's linked to the curriculum, the teachers should be driving any relevant links associated with the context in which the child is currently learning. If those curriculum links are exhausted and the child still needs more work and is thirsty for more information, then some of those commercial products will provide a supplementary resource to support the children's curriculum development.
So with that, is there any links that we could actually provide at the bottom of the introduction paragraph that you would recommend for the moment that parents to at least to have a look at to start with? I know I saw one online yesterday from the New South Wales government. Would you be able to share some that you personally recommend?
Well, look, those four that I just mentioned. So Reading Eggs is a great reading tool by which kids can get on, read books and do some comprehension activities. Yep. Mathletics obviously goes towards mathematics. Study Ladder has a general one. There's opportunities in Study Ladder. The Khan Academy is an American program, and it's covering the whole spectrum. It is American based, but still it will be covering the basics for children. So any of those four would be a good starting point for families to explore.
Yep. Okay, great. And as was sort of saying earlier on in the chat, that there's going to be a lot of parents that maybe possibly feel that they're not equipped with the tools to be able to educate their own children. But in a classroom environment, a school teacher would be able to help that child self-regulate. Is there any tips that you have for a parent who would possibly then experience for one of the first times maybe their child having to self-regulate through a learning online program? Any tips for a parent that maybe hasn't had to do that before, but maybe for the first time?
Yeah, Rachel, this is going to be a really tricky one, because for the first time, mums and dads are going to have that line blurred between being mum and dad and teacher. And the advantage of kids being at school is the lines are very clear as to who's the teacher and who's the parent. When children are being supervised by mums and dads at home, then they still need mum and dad, but on this occasion, and if our projections are right, then they're also going to have to play the role of teacher. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge. I think if they work in bite-sized chunks, so keep it short. Don't expect young children to be sitting at a desk or a computer or reading a book for an hour. They need to have short bursts of energy and activities. I think a visual timetable will give the chance to tick off and get things done, which will give a sense of achievement. I think if they have variety in their day, so we will do the basics. So we will be doing reading and writing and mathematics. The other thing is, if they have what we would call inquiry-based questions and have real life experiences, there will be a lot of learning happening. So when mum and dad is, when they're cooking, when they go shopping, when they go and play in the garden, there are numerous learning opportunities that can be found in the home context, which is really exciting for kids, because that's how kids learn, by getting out and doing. So if mum and dad take those opportunities, do it in small bite-sized pieces in class, in the home, then go outside and explore the garden and learn. Go and do some cooking and learn. When they go shopping, if we're allowed to go shopping, go and learn. So there's lots of opportunities. Do the academics, but do the real life learning as well.
And with the real life learning, ultimately there's going to be some questions from the children as to like, why are we staying home? So what messages can parents really share with the children without worrying them? And I want to take a phrase from your article. You say children appreciate a simple, honest explanation. So parents can tell them you're staying home to minimize the chance of getting sick. You know, what other advice do you have for parents to be able to communicate to the children, to educate them on what's happening in the world at the moment without worrying them so much?
Yeah. Rachel, my experience would suggest when children ask a question, if mum and dad try and fudge around answers, the children get more confused and more worried about it. So when children say to mum and dad, am I going to get sick? Or is our grandma and grandpa going to get sick with the coronavirus? The reality is we don't know. We hope not. A lot of people are potentially going to get sick. The good news is it is treatable and manageable, and the majority of the people will recover. So if mums and dads can provide children with very simple explanations for what's happening, and yes, kids, you do have to stay home so we can minimise the potential for the spread of this virus, but we're going to continue learning, we're going to be still reading and writing, then life's okay. If we get concerned and anxious, children will feed off our emotion.
Yes.
So it's very important for mum and dad almost keep a poker face. And I think there's the opportunity also to learn. And I said at the end of my article, we also need a dose of humour in this. And I think that's important for adults to manage everything that we as adults have to manage. So give kids explicit but simple answers in their language. There are also some presentations which mums and dads might like to find online. There's some YouTube clips about explaining coronavirus in children's language. So those sort of links may also give the parents some clues as to the language they can use to guide their children through this uncharted territory.
Yes. And talking about uncharted territory, we've got the Term 1 school holidays coming up in all states and territories, and they're really going to be unlike any other that we've experienced. The families will be unable to go on any trips and travel interstate and that sort of stuff as well. Understanding the holidays, holiday time, it's not an educational time, but in general, with your level of expertise, do you have any tips for families during this time when they are most likely going to be self-isolating during the school holidays?
Yeah, Rachel, I think this is a good opportunity for mums and dads to negotiate with their kids about the sort of activities that families can engage with together. For example, we don't want kids living on devices 24/7 while they're on holidays. That would not be good for anybody. So I think mums and dads and children can sit down and say, okay, today or over the next week, what are we going to be doing? And does it mean we're going to be playing board games? Does it mean we're playing cards? And yes, you can have some time on your device, and yes, you can have some time watching television, but we're also going to be cooking together. We're going to be gardening together. We're going to be doing all the odd handyman jobs around the house. We're going to be doing all the domestic duties together. Again, timetables, writing these things down, ticking them off, setting some goals for families doesn't hurt. It'll just encourage a sense of achievement when we can tick these things off. So there's going to be a lot of family bonding time, rightly or wrongly.
Yes, 100%. Well, look, we're really, really grateful for your time. We understand you're a very, very busy man. And once again, really grateful for your time. Is there anything else that you would love to communicate out to the families at the moment, and any other messages that I've possibly missed throughout the chat at all?
If I can just stress to people, this is a time where we can practice my 3 buzzwords of trust and collaboration and inquiry. I think trust the teachers to provide the work, and teachers are going to be trusting parents to get the work done. Let's do it together as much as we can. And if there are any issues, then ask questions. So we can keep our children calm and safe and healthy through this unprecedented time. But if we can work together, at the other end of it, we'll come out smiling, and we will have learned something as well.
Yeah. And look, if parents have got any other questions for you, whereabouts can they find you, Andrew?
Look, they can certainly look up my website, which is creativecollaborativesolutions.net, and I'm more than happy to address anything.
Wonderful. Once again, thank you for your time, and I can't wait to chat with you again soon. Take care.
Pleasure, Rachel. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Bye.